The man you keep admiring from a distance did not get there by stacking a few habits. He did not become dangerous because he woke up at 5. No, he became that man the day he murdered the version of himself that kept begging to be loved. And that is the part nobody tells you. They tell you to improve. But improvement is too soft for the war inside you. You do not need a better routine. You need a funeral. And as long as that version of you is breathing, the powerful one never fully arrives. So in this video, you are not going to learn how to improve yourself. You are going to learn how to erase yourself. Not physically, psychologically, completely. Because the truth is brutal. You will never become that guy by adding more. You become him when you remove every weak piece of identity that keeps betraying you. And once you understand that, you will never look at self-improvement the same way again. Part 1. The real reason you keep failing. Listen carefully. Your life is not being controlled by your goals. It is being controlled by your identity. That is why you can know exactly what to do and still not do it. That is why you can promise yourself a new life on Sunday night and break that promise by Tuesday afternoon. That is why you can be fired up for an hour and weak for the rest of the month. The problem is not information. The problem is congruence. Your actions always return to the level of the man you believe yourself to be. That is the trap. You keep trying to upgrade your behavior while running the same old operating system. You tell yourself you want discipline, but deep down, your identity is still attached to chaos. You say you want respect, but your nervous system is addicted to chasing approval. You say you want power, but your habits reveal that you still worship comfort, and comfort is always the religion of the weak. If a man sees himself as inconsistent, he will sabotage consistency. If he sees himself as undesirable, he will shrink in every room. If he sees himself as emotionally chaotic, he will create drama even when life is calm. His identity will protect itself at all costs. You are not just fighting laziness, you are fighting self-loyalty to a broken version of yourself. That old self has a voice. It whispers, "Do it tomorrow." It says one more scroll, one more excuse, one more emotional reaction, one more message, one more day of pretending you are about to change. But tomorrow is where weak men store their fantasies. Tomorrow is the graveyard of masculine potential. Every delayed decision feeds the corpse of the old you. And then you wonder why you feel heavy, because you are carrying a dead identity that refuses to stay buried. The man you want to become does not negotiate with impulses. He does not bargain with distraction. He does not ask his feelings for permission. He decides. That is it. He decides. But you cannot reach that state while trying to carry your old personality into your new life. It does not work. You cannot become dangerous while protecting everything soft inside you. You cannot become respected while still panicking about being misunderstood. You cannot become focused while staying available to every distraction. And you cannot become that guy while your identity is still built on emotional dependence. That is why basic self-help fails so many men. It gives methods to a man whose internal image is still broken. It gives productivity tactics to a man who still believes he is the type who quits. It gives gym plans to a man who still sees pain as punishment instead of purification. It gives communication tips to a man who still fears disapproval, so the strategy never sticks, because the self has not changed. Only the schedule has, and schedules collapse when identity is weak. You do not rise to the level of your intentions. You return to the standard of your self-concept. That is the law. Stop interpreting discomfort as damage. Often discomfort is evidence that the weak identity is being threatened. Good. Let it be threatened. It should be. That old version deserves no mercy. You have already shown it too much compassion. From this moment, stop asking, "What habit should I build?" Ask, "What identity must die?" That question changes everything. Because once you identify the dying version, you stop decorating weakness and start executing it. The approval seeker must die. The inconsistent man must die. The man who performs confidence online and lives like a coward offline must die. The man who says he wants greatness but chooses comfort every night must die. The man who keeps one foot in his future and one foot in his past must die. Part 2. The Elimination Protocol. History remembers men who burned the bridge back because they understood something ordinary men never do. Retreat is the favorite drug of the weak. If escape remains available, your lower self will eventually choose it. That is why Hernan Cortés burned the ships. He removed the fantasy of return. No backup identity, no soft landing, no route back to comfort, only adaptation, only conquest, only forward. That is the energy your transformation requires. If you are serious about becoming that guy, you need an elimination protocol, not a cute checklist. A protocol, cold, clear, non-negotiable. Step 1, identify the patterns that keep your old self alive. Step 2, remove access. Do not rely on willpower when environment can do the work. Weak men worship motivation because they hate structure. Strong men build systems because they understand temptation. If your phone is poisoning your focus, remove the poison. If certain people keep you childish, reduce access. If your room makes you lazy, redesign the room. If your evenings are where you collapse, dominate the evening. The environment is not neutral. It is either training you or draining you. Choose. Step 3. Replace emotional decision-making with law. Law is power. Feelings are weather. Weather changes. Law remains. The average man lives by mood. That is why he is unreliable. He trains when inspired, works when confident, leads when praised, resets when ashamed. He is not a man, he is a reaction. But the man you want to become does not ask how he feels. He has rules. I do not miss training. I do not break promises to myself. I do not chase what withdraws. I do not explain my standards. I do not trade long-term power for short-term relief. Notice the difference. That is not goal language. That is identity law. And identity law changes behavior faster than motivation ever will. Step 4. Make regression painful. Most men fail because returning to weakness is too easy. There is no cost, no consequence, no sting. So they drift. You need friction against your lower self. Put money on the line. Create visible standards. Track missed promises. Cut off entertainment until work is done. Let the fall hurt, because what is easy repeats, and what becomes painful decreases. Demosthenes trained his speech with stones in his mouth and discipline in isolation. He did not wait to feel gifted. He attacked his weakness until weakness had nowhere left to hide. That is the standard. You do not babysit your flaws. You corner them. Step 5. Stop performing transformation. Nothing destroys momentum like public self-improvement theater. The moment many men announce a change, they steal satisfaction from the work itself. They get dopamine from being seen trying, instead of from becoming dangerous in silence. Silence is not just mysterious. Silence is strategic. When nobody knows what you are building, nobody gets to interrupt the architecture. Move quietly. Let people feel the shift before they hear about it. Let results speak with the volume your mouth used to borrow. Step 6. Destroy the language of weakness. Language is identity exposed. Listen to how weak men speak. I am trying. I hope. Maybe. I will see. I need to find motivation. I have been off lately. That vocabulary is soft, foggy, spineless. A man speaks his reality into structure. I train. I work. I leave. I refuse. I decide. I do not negotiate. Short language, clean language, final language. When your speech becomes precise, your mind starts obeying sharper commands. And understand this, elimination is not about becoming emotionless, it is about becoming ungoverned by emotion. There is a difference. A powerful man still feels. He just does not kneel. He can be hurt without becoming hysterical. He can be rejected without dissolving. He can feel anger without becoming stupid. He can feel desire without surrendering leadership of himself. That is power, not numbness, governance, self-rule, sovereignty. You want to become untouchable? Then stop defining untouchable as cold aesthetics and dead eyes. Untouchable means your impulses do not own you. Untouchable means disrespect does not hijack your mission. Untouchable means loneliness does not make you lower your standards. Untouchable means attention does not inflate you. Untouchable means silence does not scare you. The strongest men in the room are usually not the loudest. They are the least available for manipulation. That is what you are building. A nervous system that cannot be bought by comfort. A mind that cannot be bullied by emotion. An identity that does not collapse when nobody is watching, so burn the ships. Remove the exits. Stop feeding what should be dying. That is the elimination protocol. Without it, you will stay inspired and unchanged. With it, your life begins to narrow into power. Part 3. The identity trap and the price of power. Now we get to the part most men avoid, the price, because everybody wants to become powerful until power starts charging rent. Everybody says they want discipline, respect, and dominance. But very few men are willing to pay the sovereignty tax, and there is always a tax. Power costs comfort, power costs approval, power costs access, power costs old friendships, power costs the version of you that everybody found easier to manage. That is why so many men stay weak. Weakness is expensive in the long term, but comfortable in the moment. And the average man worships the moment. He thinks in cravings, he thinks in moods, he thinks in tonight. But if you want to become that guy, you must learn to think like a ruler. A ruler does not ask what feels good now. He asks what preserves the kingdom. And your kingdom is your mind, your body, your attention, your name, your standards. Anything that weakens those things is an invading force. Treat it that way. This is why becoming powerful often feels lonely before it feels rewarding. When you stop being easy to access, some people call you distant. When you stop over-explaining, some people call you arrogant. When you stop tolerating disrespect, some people call you difficult. When you stop entertaining nonsense, some people say you changed. Good. You were supposed to. The old version of you was convenient. He was available, predictable, pleasantly weak. People knew how to use him. So of course, some will resist your evolution. Your growth exposes their comfort. Your discipline confronts their excuses. Your boundaries remove their leverage. And weak people hate losing leverage. Understand this deeply. Not everyone clapping for your healing wants your power. Some only want a prettier version of your obedience. That is why silence matters. That is why private standards matter. Because once you stop asking permission to transform, you stop letting spectators vote on your life. Abraham Maslow said that what we can be, we must be. But most men never reach that because they do not fear failure nearly as much as they fear the responsibility of success. Failure lets you stay familiar. Success demands a new self. Success demands that your excuses die permanently. Success demands maintenance, expectations, visibility, consistency. And for an undisciplined man, that feels threatening. So he unconsciously chooses sabotage. He misses the workout, spends the money, answers the toxic message, sleeps through the alarm, starts drama, overthinks the opportunity, anything to preserve the old identity. Then he says, life is hard. No, identity defense is hard. That is what you are experiencing. You are not cursed. You are congruent, painfully congruent with the self-image you have not yet buried. That should wake you up, because once you realize your life mirrors your identity, blame becomes useless. And useless things must be discarded. So discard blame, discard victimhood, discard the fantasy that one day motivation will descend from the sky and save you. Nobody is coming. There is no perfect season, no perfect heartbreak, no perfect Monday, no perfect mentor arriving to drag you into your next form. There is only decision, and decision is terrifying because it removes excuses. Theodore Roosevelt understood the brutal value of strenuous living. Not comfort, not passivity, not safety, strenuous life. Life with friction, life with burden, life with chosen hardship, because hardship, when chosen, becomes forge. The man who voluntarily enters difficulty gains something the comfortable man never will, authority over himself. And once a man has authority over himself, the world starts reading him differently. He walks differently, speaks differently, chooses differently. He no longer leaks desperation. He no longer vibrates need. He does not enter rooms asking to be accepted. He enters with internal permission already granted. That is the shift, not louder confidence, quieter certainty. That is why real power often looks calm. It does not need performance. It does not need theater. It does not need constant display. It is felt, like pressure before a storm, like a blade still inside its sheath. And if you are honest, that is what you want. Not just muscles, not just money, not just followers. You want gravity. You want presence. You want people to feel that you are not to be played with, not because you are aggressive, but because you are governed, because there is no visible crack where manipulation can enter. That is why discipline is more than habit. Discipline is identity armor. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes another layer. Every urge you deny becomes another brick. Every difficult task you complete without applause becomes another piece of evidence that you are no longer the man you used to be. Evidence matters. Confidence without evidence is delusion, but confidence built through repeated self-conquest becomes unshakable. That is what you are after, not mood-based confidence, earned certainty. Still, do not underestimate the emotional cost. You will outgrow conversations. You will outgrow environments. You may even outgrow people you once loved deeply. That will sting. Let it sting. Transformation is not sterile. It bleeds. The old social life may die. The old coping methods may die. The old identity definitely dies. And death, even symbolic death, creates grief. Yes, grief. Because you are not only losing weakness, you are losing familiarity, and familiarity can feel like home even when it is destroying you. This is where many men turn back. Not because the new path is wrong, because the grief feels too real. They miss being known. They miss easy pleasure. They miss not having standards. They miss the softness of excuses. So they return. They resurrect the old self. And then they spend years pretending they are trapped, when really they just refuse the price of sovereignty. Do not make that mistake. The price is not proof you are on the wrong path. The price is proof you finally found a path worth walking. Genghis Khan did not build power by staying agreeable to every tribe around him. He unified through severity, structure, and uncompromising standards. Now your life is not a battlefield empire, but the principle remains. Nothing strong is built through endless accommodation. You cannot organize chaos by obeying it. You cannot lead yourself while begging your impulses to cooperate. Leadership requires hierarchy. Something in you must rule, and something in you must obey. So decide right now, who is in command? The sovereign self, or the reactive animal, the builder, or the comfort addict, the disciplined man, or the child with adult vocabulary? Because both cannot sit on the throne. One must dominate, one must disappear. And the longer you delay that decision, the more your life decays in the hands of the weaker part. That decay is subtle at first, a few missed opportunities, a little resentment, a little envy, a little compulsive distraction, a little more compromise. Then suddenly years are gone. Your body is softer, your attention is broken, your standards are negotiable, your confidence is theatrical, and the man you could have become feels like a ghost haunting everything you touch. That should disturb you. It should, because there are only two directions in male life: construction or decay. There is no neutral. If you are not building force, you are leaking it. If you are not sharpening identity, you are dulling it. If you are not becoming more governed, you are becoming more available for corruption. That is the price of inaction. That is the hidden tax of staying the same, and it is always more expensive than change. Part 4. Rebirth, Congruence, and Becoming Him. So how do you lock this in? How do you stop this from becoming another intense video you feel for one night and forget by morning? Simple. You stop treating transformation like emotion, and you start treating it like identity enforcement. This is the congruence lock. Your life must become hostile to contradiction. If you say you are disciplined, your day must show discipline. If you say you respect yourself, your standards must prove it. If you say you are becoming dangerous, your routines must carry danger in them. Not chaos. Danger. Precision. Control. Force contained. This is where most men get lazy. They want to feel like the man before they behave like the man. Wrong order. Behavior first. Evidence first. Identity solidifies afterward. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk did not transform a nation by hoping the old order would gradually evolve. He imposed a new identity through decision, standard, and force of direction. Again, same principle. New reality requires a declared self that no longer bows to the previous structure. That is what you need now. A declared self, not a wish, not a mood, a declaration. I am no longer available for the habits that made me small. I am no longer reachable through my wounds. I am no longer persuading people to respect what I refuse to discipline. I am no longer introducing myself through potential. I move through proof. That declaration must become operational. So here is how. First, build non-negotiables, not preferences. Preferences are soft. Non-negotiables are identity anchors. A preference says, I want to train 5 days a week. A non-negotiable says, I do not miss training without a real reason. A preference says, I should save money. A non-negotiable says, I do not betray my future for impulses. A preference says, I want to be calmer. A non-negotiable says, I do not give low-level events control over my nervous system. Feel the difference. One is desire, the other is law. Your life changes when law replaces suggestion. Second, control exposure. You become what you repeatedly consume: food, content, conversation, environment, energy. If you flood your mind with gossip, weakness, lust, outrage, and empty entertainment, do not act surprised when your spirit becomes cheap. Cheap input creates cheap identity. Guard the gates, not because you are fragile, because you are building something rare. Third, shorten the gap between decision and action. Weak men think too long. They let impulse hold board meetings. They debate obvious necessities. Train, work, leave the toxic pattern, sleep on time, stop chasing, speak less, move now. Speed matters when truth is already known. Delay only gives the old self time to interfere. Fourth, create evidence daily. Tiny evidence is still evidence. A hard workout completed, a promise kept, a distraction rejected, a difficult conversation handled with calm, a boundary maintained without apology. This is how identity changes, not through fantasy, through repeated proof. You need a stack of internal receipts so undeniable that even your old mind has to admit the truth. I am not that man anymore. Fifth, Master strategic silence. Do not reveal every shift. Do not broadcast every plan. Do not tell people what you are killing inside yourself. Transformation grows best in private pressure. When the seed is underground, it is not weak. It is preparing. Same with you. Be quiet long enough for your results to confuse people. Be quiet long enough for your discipline to become your introduction. Be quiet long enough that when you finally speak, your life gives your words authority. Sixth, use pain correctly. Pain can either make you profound or pathetic. Most men use pain to seek sympathy. A powerful man uses pain to create order. Heartbreak becomes fuel. Humiliation becomes standards. Loneliness becomes concentration. Rejection becomes redirection. Disrespect becomes a mirror asking whether you have been carrying yourself like a man who permits it. Everything becomes usable when your identity is strong enough. That is alchemy, turning injury into authority, turning rage into discipline, turning absence into self-reliance, turning chaos into command. Now understand the deeper truth. You do not become that guy one day. You become him every day you refuse to betray him. That version of you is not far away. He is not hidden in another city, another relationship, another year. He exists in the decisions you keep postponing. He exists in the standards you keep lowering. He exists in the silence you keep avoiding. He exists in the pain you keep wasting. He exists every time life offers you a choice between comfort and command. And every time you choose command, he becomes more visible. That is the rebirth, not magic. Selection. Repeated selection. The death of oneself. The enforcement of another. So kill the fantasy that you need more time. You have had time. Kill the fantasy that you need more motivation. You have had motivation. Kill the fantasy that one more video will save you. It will not. What saves you is decision backed by structure, law backed by repetition, identity backed by proof. From now on, stop saying, I am trying to become that guy. Say, I am removing everything that is not him, that is cleaner, that is harsher. That is true, because the powerful man is not created by addition alone. He is revealed through subtraction. You remove the neediness, you remove the emotional leakage, you remove the excuses, you remove the distractions, you remove the audience addiction, you remove the comfort worship, you remove the words that make weakness sound poetic. And what remains? A man with standards, a man with edge, a man with self-command, a man whose presence carries decision, a man who does not need to prove power because his life is evidence of it. That is the man people call cold, but he is not cold. He is clear. He is not heartless. He is disciplined. He is not distant. He is selective. He is not untouchable because nobody can hurt him. He is untouchable because pain no longer gets to define him. That is real dominance. Not domination over others, dominion over self. And once you have that, everything changes. Your posture changes, your gaze changes, your voice slows down, your standards rise, your time becomes guarded, your attention becomes expensive, your name starts meaning something, not because you demanded respect, because your behavior became impossible to ignore. This is your line in the sand. Not tomorrow. Now. Either you keep feeding the weak identity and spend another year wondering why life keeps humiliating you, or you cut it off. You bury it. You let the old self die screaming if necessary, and you walk forward as a man who no longer asks permission to become formidable. That is the choice. And if you are really done with the old version of yourself, prove it in silence. Not with hype, not with a speech, with action, with standard, with discipline so consistent it starts to feel violent. Then one day, people will look at you and call you lucky. They will call you intense. They will call you different. They will say you changed, and they will never understand the truth. You did not become better. You became incompatible with weakness. That is how you become that fucking guy. Not by wishing, not by waiting, by deciding that the man who kept ruining your life will never speak for you again. If this hit you where it needed to hit you, do not just nod and move on. Write this in the comments. I killed the weak version. Then disappear for a while. Get disciplined in private. Get dangerous in silence. And when you return, return heavier, sharper, untouchable. If you want more content like this, subscribe now. Not to feel motivated, to be reminded what must die.